No, he was laughing and he said, I think we can. And so I started Texas Baptist Institute in the spring of 2017. I've enjoyed it. I was talking to an instructor yesterday and I said, I never would have thought I would have learned as much as I've learned now, just in a year. And as the president, Brother Ray Brooks, has said, a lot of times you have to unlearn a lot of things to start learning some things.
Yeah. Right.
And I know that to be true. And we offer so many classes. They even offer English classes. You don't think you need English until you go preach at a church where there's 8 English teachers listening to you. And then it becomes a little, they're diagramming every sentence you're saying. So we do offer a lot of classes. And but the reason I knew I needed to come to TBI was when that man started speaking and teaching. And it inspired me and it reminded me of what 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15 tells us. Peter writes, but sanctify or set apart the Lord God in your hearts, and be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh you a reason for the hope that is in you with meekness and fear. And that has really been the key one of the keys for me being in seminary. Another one I think about, the reason I'm at TBI is the Great Commandment. Not only the Great Commission, but the Great Commandment. And Jesus said to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. We leave the mind out a lot of times. And seminary can help you love Him with all your mind, so that we can love our neighbor as ourselves. And what better way to love our neighbor than to share the gospel, the greatest message ever,
Amen.
with them. And I was thinking about that, and so I decided to start. And every man must be willing to ask and to come to the conclusion of his own belief. They must be willing to ask questions instead of just saying, well, my family believes it, so that's why I believe it. And the question isn't, is there truth out there? And the question isn't, is truth objective? The real question is, when this truth is discovered in my life, will I apply it? Will I submit to this truth? And the more study and the more reading I've done, I'm further convinced by faith and by reading this book and reading other books that Almighty God is the creator of the universe and His Son, Jesus Christ, is the embodiment of truth. And so I just want to encourage you that you don't have to be a preacher. You don't have to be a missionary or even work at a church to take classes at TBI. My mom, who's sitting back there, and my sister is taking classes online. And we're going to hear from that in a moment about our online class. So I just encourage you to look into it. You're never too young, never too old to take classes from TBI or any seminary. And so I just thank you all for your time. And I want to thank you for your support as well for this school. And just ask you to continue to pray for us as we seek to further God's kingdom by teaching men and women. Thank you.
Amen.
I just kind of like the fact that a lot of times when people are around, they talk about how old Brother Weeks is, but now they're starting to talk about how old Brother Robert is. And you can see the discipleship, one generation making fun of another generation. Because Chris got in a little shot there.
It's a constant battle.
It's constant battle. But I guess you could say Brother Robert now gets to back cleanup. And I'm excited what's going on at TBI. I'm excited about what's going on in all of our schools. It's amazing how God is using different places to meet the needs of different men and women so they can be equipped. And I love what I heard from Chris. I've never heard it put that way, about loving the Lord with all your mind. Study, training your mind so you can love the Lord fully that way. And I thought that was beautiful. It's a secret, so I really appreciate that. But Brother Robert will come and fix all the things I messed up. Amen.
Well, we got time, but not that much. So, for those of you that don't know, my name is Robert Wallace, and I am with Texas Baptist Institute Seminary. The great thing about this, and I did not pay Brother Chris for this opportunity, but Josh wants to be ready at noon. It's 11:15. Yes, I've got the floor, and nobody else is on the agenda. So, wow, what an opportunity! So, you have a captive audience. So, hey, we are in Huntsville, right? They're all about captive audiences here, right? So,
Back doors are locked.
okay, great. Thank you, Josh. But I appreciate Chris and the things he he said, you know, we failed pretty miserably with the first generation of gardeners. We're trying again, okay? So, no, I appreciate the legacy of the Gardner family. And I know that they had a big impact in this area, still having a big impact in this area, and we're proud of that. But I'm very grateful for what's going on at Texas Baptist Institute and Seminary. I have had the opportunity to be in or around that school since 1988. And I know some of you go, that's not very long. That's 30 years, y'all, okay? That's quite a while. And Brother Al talking about young men. I'm only 10 years behind you, sir, so I'm not that far behind. But I'll tell you this, that TBI has been around since 1948. And I'm going to tell you that, and that's 70 years, okay? We just finished 70 years of existence. And I am very thankful to stand here and tell you that I feel like the future of TBI is even brighter than our past. And we've had a pretty bright past. And so we are excited about what is going on. As most of you know, I'll say 2010 was probably our lowest point. In 2010, while it was never said out loud in a meeting, in private conversations, the conversation was had, how long can this really last? We enrolled 25 students in August of 2010. 25 students with 14 instructors. Now, we could brag about our student-instructor ratio. You know, all schools tout, oh, our student-instructor ratio is this. We were almost one-on-one, okay? So you don't get much better than that. But, that's not a healthy place to be. So we looked at that, and at the same time, I'm going to tell you what inspired us at the same time. At about that same time, we had what was the largest one-time contribution come into TBI. A couple both died, and they didn't have any children, and they left their estate to our school. That totaled to a little over $300,000. Okay? At that point, it was like, wait a minute. God knows the end from the beginning, right? If God knew that this school was about to die, why would He have allowed that big boost of money to come in right then? Now, the great thing about that was our Board of Trustees at that time were very wise. And they said, we could spend this on a lot of things, but there's really nothing right now that we need to spend that on. So let's set that money aside because there may be something down the road that we need that money for. And so we just forgot we had it. Not really, but you don't forget that kind of money. But we just set it aside. The thing is that at the same time we put a concerted effort, and we put a group of 4 people together who had no power, no authority, but just said, let's just start meeting and say, what can we do? And I kind of go back, I always go back to the analogy that I always used with my boys when they were playing baseball. My boys played baseball, and as you do in baseball, you strike out, right? You strike out quite a bit. In fact, a lot of times you strike out more than you hit, and that's not an unusual thing. But what I always told my boys when they were playing baseball was, I said, if you're going to strike out, that's okay. It happens. You're going to strike out. But if you strike out, I want you to strike out swinging. Right? I don't want you standing there watching it go by and go, wow, I probably should have swung at that, I said, strike out swing. I said, you give it the biggest rip you can. And if you strike out swinging, I'm going to say, good job, son, you tried. So that mentality kicked in, and I said, you know what, if we're going to go down, we're going to go down swinging. So we started swinging for the fences, okay? And we put everything on the table and said, nothing is off limits. Said, obviously, if it's society, if it's culture, if it's just past our time and we're not able to keep up, then so be it, but we're going to do what we can. We're going to do what we can, and we'll let God and society take care of the rest. So we started swinging for the fences. And so we started making changes and looking at things, examining things, and you know what you do when you do that? You ever do spring cleaning? You start finding some stuff that you need to get rid of, right? And you start finding some stuff that then you find things like, wait a minute, I forgot we had that. We ought to be using that, you know? And so that's kind of how we started and what we did. In all of that process, the word accreditation came up over and over again. It comes up all the time. And if you don't know this, every time we have the Association of Biblical, let's back up. It's the American Baptist Association of Theological Schools. I have too many acronyms running around in my head. It's the American Baptist Association of Theological Schools, where all of our schools and our work get together. Which, by the way, let me throw this out there, we are not in competition with each other.
Amen.
Okay? It's not a competition. And we all have different roles that we fill. And that's great, and that's wonderful, because not everybody needs or wants what every school does. Okay? We're not in competition. So we talk about that, but accreditation is always there. And let me tell you what has happened with accreditation and why that became so important. Because in our culture, in our society today, and I have a son that's in college now and another one that's a senior in high school right now, and I can tell you this firsthand from the parent's perspective. Parents are brainwashed by the school, by school counselors and by the system. And when they look at a school, it doesn't matter what school of higher education it is, the first question they ask is what, Brother Chris?
Are you accredited?
Are you accredited? Now they have no clue what that means. And they have no clue if they need it or not. But they have been taught and trained to ask that question, and if the answer is no, they move on. They ask no other questions, and they don't care what you stand for, what your history is, what you teach, what your doctrinal statement is. They don't care. They're gone. And I can tell you, and you guys have seen this over the years, have you not seen a migration of those in our churches who surrendered to ministry? They look for higher education, especially younger ones. And where do they end up going? They don't go to our schools. Why do they not go to our schools? Because they're not accredited. Okay? And we can sit here all day and argue that that's not necessary and our churches don't care and this and that, you know, and if they get that good education, we're good and all. I got all that. I'm on your side, okay? I got that. But the bottom line is, society has spoken.
Amen.
And that's the answer.
Yeah.
And so at that point, and we had investigated this in the past. This is not a new thing for us to investigate. But we were never able to find an accrediting agency that we felt like would allow us to do what we feel we need to do scripturally and every other kind of way, but yet would still work with us. Although the whole time the Association for Biblical Higher Education was there. They've been around since 1945 and have accredited schools across the United States and Canada during that whole time. But we never came across them, even though we had done a lot of research. But when we got to the point of where we said, let's take a hard, serious look at this and let's give it one more shot, because we saw that, because we had multiple potential students over that in the 2000s for sure. Multiple of them that just walked on by. And walked right out of our churches into other schools. And here's what happens. They go to those other schools. What do? They make friends. They get involved in churches. And they graduate. And what do? They stay in that work. Let me tell you one of the poster children. We had a young man and a young lady who grew up in Calvary Baptist Church in Henderson, Texas. The sponsoring church of TBI. They grew up there. The young man actually didn't grow up there. He came as a teenager, got saved, but grew up in his disciple life in the youth ministry of Calvary. When they got to be college age, the young lady decided she wanted to go on a mission trip. So through the Ministry of Youth Frameworks that I did for about 20 years, she went with me to Thailand. She had been dating this young man for a while, and they were very serious. We went to Thailand, and she fell in love with Thai people and the Thai culture and just Thailand in general. Came back, she told the young man, she said, you know, you've been talking about ministry. We need to go as missionaries to Thailand. So the next summer, I was taking another team to Thailand. Both of them went. He went, he fell in love with Thailand. Okay, great. They came back, he surrendered to ministry. He said, we want to go, and they had been engaged by that point, said, we're going to go as missionaries to Thailand. His mother was a marginal church person, was not any interested in doctrinal things. And so when it got time for him to say, I'm going to go to seminary. Okay, you grew up in Calvary, you live in Henderson, TBI's right here, it would be free for you. Where's he going to go to school? TBI, right? Till his mother got involved. And asked the question, is it accredited? She has no clue what that means.
Yeah.
He said, no. She said, well, you're not going to go there. Because you may need something to fall back on and you need an accredited degree. So what did he do? He drove 30 minutes down the road to Jacksonville. Goes to school there. What did he do? Started making friends. Started getting involved in work. Became a youth pastor at a BMA church. Guess what? Graduated school. He and his wife are fantastic missionaries in Bangkok, Thailand now for the BMA. Now, I support them 1,000%. In fact, our church is sending a mission group to go work with them here in about 2 weeks. Okay? Because they're us. But they're, doggone it, we raised them, we trained them, we got them interested, we took them over there. I want them to be with us. Okay? I'm all for them. I'll do anything I can to help them, and they're doing great work, and it's wonderful. But why can't they be with us? It all came down to we weren't accredited. So when people ask you, why in the world would you do that? If that one story is not enough, what else do you need? Okay? And again, he's doing great work, and I'm glad he's there, and I support him wholeheartedly. But I just wish he was still with us. Okay? Here's the other thing. As has already been talked about here, so I'm not saying anything new. I think if you look around, age is a factor. And I see several churches represented here that are going to need a new pastor in the not too distant future. And some of y'all right now wish you could step out and give it to somebody. But you know what? We've got a shortage. Why do we have a shortage? Because they keep leaving. Okay? So what do we need to do? We got to turn the spigot off. Right? And accreditation just became very obvious that was a key. So we started down that path. So in 2015, we became, and we entered applicant status with the Association for Biblical Higher Education. Now, I understand, that's 3 years. And people have to say, hey, wait, y'all been in this for 3 years. Y'all are accredited by now, aren't you? Nope. But we're 3 years closer than we were, okay? Now, let me tell you, this can be up to a 13-year process, okay? And it is not easy. Now, here's the good news. The good news is that we have, in February of this past year, we were granted by the Commission on Accreditation, we were granted a site visit team that will come they're coming September the 11th. I hope that's not an omen. But they're coming September the 11th. Now, what does that mean? That means that the Commission on Accreditation feels that we have done sufficient work and we are ready to move to the next level. Amen. Okay? And let me tell you, not everybody who submitted documentation at their February meeting, not every school that submitted asking for a site visit team was granted the team. So it's not a given just because you're there for a while. Okay? And I tell you that what we had to submit, and Brother Chris has been a part of this before, what we had to submit was a self-study or a compliance document. This document was about 130-something pages of documentation. that it wasn't just we sat down and wrote 130 pages. It had to be backed up with research and with this and with that was about us, okay? And we had to document. Now what will happen in the coming months is that we will get the site visit team will come in September. Then we will then be invited to the annual meeting of the commission in February in Orlando, Florida. And Brother Steve Butler and I will attend that meeting where we will sit before the Commission on Accreditation. And that's the equivalent of, you've seen congressional hearings, right? So we'll be at the little table and they'll be at the big tables, okay? And we'll be pelted with questions after the site visit team has come and been there 3 days and done all that. If everything goes according to plan, and we have no reason to believe that it won't, we will then be granted the opportunity, in February, we will be granted to move from applicant status to candidate status. What? That's still not it? No, that's candidate status. Now, let me tell you what candidate status does though. Candidate status is the commission's stamp that says that we feel that you have made sufficient progress and that in no more than 5 years you will reach initial accreditation. Okay? Most of the time, it's 3 to 4. Most of them are 4 from that point. What does that mean? That means that in February, we reach candidate status. That also means that we will, they are saying that within 4 years, we should hit initial accreditation. Now, what does that mean for students? That means that we can tell students at that point, if you come here, by the time you graduate, we should be there. Okay? Now, what does that say for current students? For current students, they're still good. Because we've been told by multiple sources that if you graduate during a time when the school is in candidacy, anywhere, almost anywhere, if they look at all that, they'll say, oh, they were in candidacy, oh, you're good. Okay? So even our current students, once we hit candidacy, is there. Another big thing is this with candidacy. I am taking a little long, but I just want to share you this information because I know this is questions that people have because we've been asked. At candidacy, we become officially Department of Education recognized. Okay? I've always thought it was funny. Since day one of our school, we've been Veterans Administration recognized because we've been able to receive the GI Bill. Most of y'all probably didn't know TBI was started. It was attached to a business school for retraining GIs coming back from World War II. Okay? And we started day one with GI Bill certification. Yeah. And so we've had that since day one. At some point, not too long after that, we received what is now called Department of Homeland Security certification, where we can have international students, which we now have 4 international students on campus, one of them with his wife. And that's always great. And Tuesday night of this week, we had an international dinner. And everybody brought dishes from their country. Now, what was really funny was we had one of our students went down to the local catfish place and got some catfish. He said, hey, that's my culture. Okay? And so, we had people bringing fried chicken and dumplings and stuff, but then we also had sushi and, other things from these other countries. But so it was a great time. But those students actually do add flavor to our school, okay? But we really messed that up, didn't I? But Department of Education recognized is going to be a huge step, even though we have not hit initial accreditation. And here's some side benefits that people don't even realize. Parents today, they put back money for college savings, right? And they put them in what's called a 529 plan fund. 529 plan fund is like an IRA that you can use that money to pay for college education without taxes. Do you know now that if any parent's been saving money for that, if their child goes to one of our schools, you realize that in order for them to use that money, they have to pay taxes and penalties? Gee, why would somebody not want to come to our school? Because if I've got to use this money, I don't want to pay taxes and penalties, right? How simple is that? We're just being practical here, right? Let me tell you another thing that's happened, that we've had a couple of students in the last few years that have had to leave school because of this. They go to secular college, they take out student loans, Stafford loans, okay, through Title IV. They surrender to ministry. You're in college. Chris would never know anything about that, right? I mean, he just told you about that, right? He's in school. And he says, you know what? God's calling me to something else. I need to change schools. We've had a couple of students that did that. They came to our school. Here's the thing about those Stafford loans. As long as you're in school, you don't have to pay them back, right? And then you graduate, then you start paying them. Here's the problem. They come to our school. They get what's called a deferment paper. They bring that deferment paper to me, and that deferment paper, I can't sign it because we're not Department of Education recognized. So we've had a couple of students who have had to quit school because they had to start paying their student loans back. Okay? You see the practical side of this? Okay, I'm just trying to show you that there are practical benefits to this, and there are reasons for being accredited. Not to mention the benefit of it has made us a tremendously better school. Now, better how? And the biggest thing it's done is made us a better school through organization. If you can only see all of the policy and procedure manuals and all the other stuff we're having to write and do and put together and all that, it is crazy. And like our Board of Trustees just met a couple of weekends ago. Our Board of Trustee meetings have now gone from being a Tuesday night of a couple of hours to being a Friday night and half a day Saturday thing. And our agenda for our trustee meetings has gone from they walk in the door, we hand them a piece of paper with 10 little bullet points on it saying we're going to talk about new business, old business, housing report, financial report, and all that, to being that the last packet that we sent out for an agenda that they got 2.5 weeks in advance was about 103 pages, I think. Okay? So you say, well, hey, y'all just putting out a lot of pages. Yes, but what is that? That's information. That's planning. That's doing all that. The other thing is that what the accrediting agency does is they make sure that you are doing continual planning. You're doing continual evaluation. And you're always growing for the future. And you're not sitting back waiting for things to come at you. You're being proactive toward it. Okay? So to say that it's not making us a better school would be a lie. Okay? Now, let me take it to the other side because I know this is the other question. Yeah, but now that you're getting all this government in and now that you're getting this accrediting agency in and all that, yeah, they're going to start telling you can't teach this, you can't teach that. That is a lie. Okay? They do not tell us what to teach. They don't tell us what our doctrinal statement needs to be. Let me tell you one way you can know they don't tell you what to teach. This accrediting agency, they accredit anything that calls themselves biblical higher education. So they accredit everything from a weird doctrine over here to our true doctrine. Okay? So they accredit people with all kinds of doctrines, and how in the world are they telling people what to teach? They don't, because all the schools teach different. And they said the only way we look at your curriculum is it said, you call yourself a Baptist seminary, and we're going to look at it, and we're going to see if what you're teaching is consistent with what you say you are.
Yeah.
And they said, if we see something in there, and it's just us today, so I'm going to use this illustration. Facebook will love it. And I'll give you the example that he gave me right at the beginning. That our first representative gave us at the beginning. He said, the only thing we'll do with your curriculum is he says, we'll examine it. And when we examine it, he said, for example, you call yourself a Baptist seminary. And he said, if we look at your curriculum and you're teaching a class on pole dancing, we're going to ask you why.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't seem to be consistent with what you say you are. Okay? Now, here's the thing. Wouldn't you want them to ask that question? Okay? But here's the other side of that. If we could justify that, they would say, okay. Okay? He even told me an example of, he said, I went to a school, we were working with a school, and said they had a hard and fast rule that you could not wear short sleeve shirts. Okay? Hard and fast. Can't wear short sleeve shirts. And they said, okay, why? And their belief was that this part of the arm was sexy. And you needed to cover it. Now this guy said, you've obviously never seen mine. Okay? You know? But they said, okay, as long as you have a reason for it, and as long as you apply that equally to everyone, it's okay. So see, if they'll do stuff like that, what will they do with our doctrine? Okay? Which has been really neat too, because the guy that's been working with us since day one in this process, he's not a Baptist. And it's been really neat to sit and indoctrinate him on the truth. Okay? And he's starting to come around on a couple of things, all right? So, we're evangelizing through this process, okay? So, but I know I've gone a long time and all of that, but I'm trying to tell you this is what it's all about. And let me tell you about the Association for Biblical Higher Education. I'm going to tell you, Brother Steve and I went to a meeting in Dallas with the president of the association back in February, I believe it was. And we went there because they were talking about changes they were looking to make in the association. And I'm going to tell you, after that meeting, we were convinced that we were with the right agency, because this agency was doing some things, and they have just made some changes to position themselves to be ready for what the government is trying to impose on schools. Okay? And one of the biggest issues that's out there that I know you're aware of, and you don't know this term, but it's SOGI issues. S-O-G-I. Sexual orientation, gender identity. Okay? And that's an issue, right? But you do realize this, that whether you're accredited or you're not accredited, the laws of the land apply.
Yeah.
Okay? And so, just because if we're not accredited, that doesn't mean they're not going to try to enforce things on us. But here's the good thing, I'll say this about ABHE, which is our accrediting agency. They have positioned themselves now to where if they come down really hard on that and do that, ABHE will pull out of some areas that they've been in since 1945, so they don't have to impose that on the schools that they accredit. Okay? That told me we were with the right agency, because they want to stand for truth. They want to stand against those things, and they are lobbying for us, and they are teaching and training us how to face these issues that are coming. That's been the biggest thing we've found, is that we've got support. And we go to these meetings and we go to these places, and what's really neat is we called up Brother Steve and I, we were talking about it, I'm going to ask Brother Larry to come here in a second. We were looking at our distance learning stuff, and Brother Deaton mentioned they're looking at all of that, and that's just what you got to do. And so we were looking at what we're doing, and we've been doing that now for about 4 years. We've been in that process, and we're kind of kicking it on steroids now. But we wanted to know, well, what are other schools doing, and how are they doing it, and what are we doing? Do you know, because of our affiliation with ABHE, and because we've attended meetings with these other schools and stuff like that, we were able to call Southwestern Seminary in Fort Worth and say, hey, who's your distance learning person? They said, oh, that's Dr. Jim so-and-so. I said, well, could you connect me with him? Yes. Called him up, and he said, we'd like to come and just talk to you about how you're doing your distance learning, what you're doing in this, your equipment you're using, all this other stuff. He said, yeah, come on. Because we had an affiliation already. You know, not an affiliation doctrinally, not an affiliation but an affiliation because we're seen as a peer school. Okay? Same thing with B.H. Carroll Seminary in Irving. We just met with them last week. And so those things, you know, and you say, well, wait a minute, now y'all getting all these affiliations and stuff. No, we're getting affiliations to learn how to do school better. Okay? We're not affiliating doctrinally, we're not forming alliances, we're not doing any of that kind of stuff. We're just saying we want to learn, we want to spoil the Egyptians. Okay? You know, well, how they build the tabernacle? What was all that stuff that the Egyptians threw at them as they were leaving the country, right? So, you know, we want to spoil the Egyptians. Let me tell you what I learned from going to those two places. I learned we're on the same track. They're on it technologically and other ways, and I was very encouraged. I said, hey, you know, they're considered to be the big boys, you know, and we're doing it kind of like the big boys are. So I was kind of encouraged. I said, now, we learned some things, and we can do better, but hey, we're on the right track. So that's what I'm telling you about TBI, and because we had this setting today, I just wanted to lay all that out there for you, because I know that there are questions but they don't ever ask us. Please, if you hear something or there's a question, please call us, okay? We'll be happy to answer any question you have, and if we can't answer the question, we need to be called on the carpet if we can't answer the question, okay? But trust me, there have been no question asked that you had asked of you or that you come up with. I'm going to guess most likely it's already been asked because we've been doing this for 4 years now, including the year running up to it. So, back to the money, that large donation we got, that's what we're using to pay for accreditation. Okay? God knew what he was doing. Okay? We didn't know why that money came, but God did. Okay? Some other stuff that we're doing is through our distance learning stuff. And I have, you all got a general brochure. I've also got some brochures up here. Because of distance learning, we're able to offer multiple classes. We do what y'all refer to, any of you who used to go, by the way, how many of you graduated from TBI? Raise your hand. Okay, all right. You were talking about trimesters or whatever. Well, we're in a quarter system. Okay, we have a fall, a winter, a spring, and a summer quarter. Yes, we're offering summer classes now, but our summer quarter is only online. All right, so I've got a brochure here talking about online courses, and that's been a great thing. One other thing that I have though that is something, and I'm going to tell you right now. Take some of these brochures if you want them. But there are mistakes in this brochure. Why? Because this is the proof. But the real things went to the printer yesterday, and so I didn't have the real thing. But I wanted to have something for you to have in your hand. Starting in August, we're going to start offering what's called Bible certificates. Okay? These are for those who are Sunday school teachers, lay people, whoever. These are some of our courses. These are online only. There's no instructor involved. It's more like a correspondence type thing, a digital correspondence type thing, where they're very inexpensive, but you go through this series and get a Bible certificate. This is something we've heard from a lot of people, people want to take classes, but they don't want to get involved in the whole, I'm doing for credit and go on a curriculum plan and all this kind of stuff. This is something that's very easy to do, something that's there, it's inexpensive, but we're introducing this, that registration will begin in August for this, okay? These are not for a degree, these are strictly for knowledge and information courses, okay? And these are for anybody. So I've got some of those brochures as well. By the way, any of you who are alumni that didn't have one of these, I've got some of these alumni stickers you want to put on your car. You feel free. If you're not an alumni, you want to just stick a sticker on your car, just cut alumni off the bottom and stick it on there anyway, all right? So we'll be happy to do that. But I want to say this. Our online side, and that's something that is growing. By the end of this summer, we will have every classroom in our building will be equipped with equipment for cameras and computers and everything else to do archive video and live stream video of our classes. Okay? That's adding a huge element to our online side of our classes to have the class lecture as also a part. Brother Larry, about a year ago, he decided, you know what, I want to finish what I started. Just because of moving and ministry and stuff, he never finished. So because of technology, even though he's in the hole of Shepherd over there, wherever that is, just there a few weeks ago. But even though he's there, he's able to complete his degree. Let me tell you another great thing. There was a student from New Zealand who was attending one of our other seminaries, and they lost their status to have international students. He had to go back to New Zealand. He was a year and a half away from graduating when that happened. This year, at our commencement in a couple of weeks, he's going to get his bachelor's. Okay? He was able to complete it from New Zealand. And so those are we're living in some neat times, y'all. Okay? And there's some neat things going on. But I'm going to ask Brother Larry to come and just tell you a little bit about how the online side has helped him a little bit. Or a lot of it.
I met Robert 21 years ago this June. If you remember that.
Yes, I do.
ABA meeting in Birmingham, Alabama, and he volunteered to corrupt my 2 daughters.
Did a good job.
And now I have a granddaughter that's the same age they were at that time. But the reason I say that is I moved to Mississippi to start seminary. And when I took my first church, it was a 5-hour commute each way. to go to seminary. And I did that. Then I took my second church and moved to North Arkansas. It was a 2.5-hour commute each way to attend seminary in Little Rock. And then ministry gets busy. Most of you know that, pastors, and it's very difficult to take classes and pastor a church. I did it twice. This is my third time to try to do it because of time-wise. And I just found when I came to Texas, it required more time. My ministry went in several different directions. We've been so busy and our church has been growing. I've done more counseling, and that's not to do with Shepherd, that's to do with living in 2018. I do more counseling now than I've ever done in my life. Very seldom do I not get 3 or 4 calls a week from members and non-members wanting to meet and talk. And so I found it very difficult to try to take classes. Well, I've known Robert for a long time, and I don't usually share this. I love him and his family, but I wanted to finish something I've started. I couldn't. And this is my 4th school to go to. I've done not online, through video. I've done both seminaries, but when I got to talking to Robert about taking classes, he offered some classes that are independent study. You work with a teacher through emails and assignments, that direction, and I did that last fall. Was both classes I had was basically through that. But then this fall, winter, then the spring term come along, and the Lord, through a lot of trials, or I wouldn't say temptation, but trials, one of the classes I had to enroll in was Robert's. And but what he encouraged me, it was live streaming, where I can sit in my office. Yesterday we had a class. I sat at home because Vicky's not at home, so I got to sit there and I live streamed through my computer. And I love that because the one thing I missed about seminary was talking to people. Fellowship. Now, I ain't there, but I still get to talk with them, fellowship with them. And many times as pastors, we don't have time to fellowship, even in our local association. And so even in those classes, you hear ideas, you talk, you're dealing with people that are dealing with ministry in the same way you are, and it's encouraging. So, I encourage you, if even if you haven't agreed, try the live streaming. I'm excited that they're going to be able to offer that in every classroom because if I had a choice, I wouldn't do the independent study. I do all my classes live streaming, but it's entailed a lot more work, a lot more study. 21 years ago, I started seminary, and it's a little different in here. It all is in there, but it's getting more difficult to get it out. But the thing is the value of it because, especially in the live streaming classes, I can sit there. The class I'm with Brother Roberts is 8 to 9 on Thursdays and Fridays in the morning. I get up, I go and take those classes, and then that gives me the rest of the day to do everything I need. But again, I encourage you to try that, even if you're not a pastor and you want to take a class. All it takes is a laptop, because every laptop has a camera, and you can live stream from anywhere you got internet Wi-Fi. And so you can go to Starbucks and Wi-Fi, whatever you're going to do, live stream you want to, and it's a whole lot better. And what I like about it is I got up yesterday morning, I started going in the yard, and it was time to start class. I put on a clean shirt, but I still have my dirty old shorts. And they so, all it's showing is here up. I look pretty good. No, I appreciate all our schools and what they do because education thing about the MBSF. When I went to seminary in Mississippi, I went to work for Ole Miss. One of the things we got involved in, not our church, but just we did, is you talk about move-in day. Go help some kids move in. Don't do like most of the people. Our maintenance, our general plant people, they would go help move in and then charge them. And those parents were willing to pay $25, and this is 21 years ago, to help move their kids in. You go do it and offer it free. And not only do you make contact with those kids, you make contact with those parents.
Amen.
Just a couple more things and I'll be done. The one thing is that, let me finish the story. And by the way, Miss Nancy will tell you you can live stream, you don't need a camera, because she didn't even want to put her face on in the morning, so she just did it without a camera. So, and she didn't even have a microphone to talk, she just would type in. And so she didn't even want us to hear her scratchy voice in the morning. But one thing I'll say to finish the story is that I said 2010 of August we had 25, 2010 of 2017 we had 78. Okay? So that's a great thing. We're looking to continue to grow that. Another thing is this, as you know, with everything, as all of these people will tell you, with everything it takes money, right? And so as we have expanded and grown and done all the things we've done, guess what? We need more money. If we're going to continue this process, we need to add faculty, we need to do other things, and that's just, it's going to take more money. And I'll say this, I would love to come and talk to your church. Okay? I'd love to come and make a presentation to your church about what we're doing. I promise I won't do it like this, okay? I won't go into this much detail. I'll be happy to come and do that, and I'll stay as long after as you need me to at your church to discuss and answer questions and do all that. But especially with like these certificate programs, wouldn't you like it if you had 10 or 12 people in your church that were going deep dive Bible studies on their own outside of what you're teaching them? Wouldn't that make better Sunday school teachers and all those? So that may be an encouragement to them to take those courses and go and do that. So you let me know when I can come, and my schedule is booked through June, actually until the first Sunday of July. After that, I'm pretty open. So I'd love to come and do that and spend some time with you, get to know you better, get to know your church better, but also come and tell them what opportunities there are for Christian education within the American Baptist Association. Okay? Thank you very much.
I find it very exciting. We have 3 different schools doing 3 different things. We have Sunday school material being written for children and youth and adults that have been represented. We have college ministry, which deals with a whole other animal. I like accreditation. Accreditation is with a T. Here's why. You are sharpening your axe. You become a better school. You figure out what you're strong at, and you build on that, and you figure out what you're not good at, and get you better at that too. And I love how people all the time, well, the government's going to take you over. Like, the government does not care. Have we not seen that with our world? They really don't care. And so I think it's a wonderful thing. And I met a man from Little Rock. Was a hospital chaplain. He got a degree at one of our schools. And he ended up in Jacksonville also. Getting his second master's degree. Had to pay for a second master's degree because for hospital chaplains, they have to have accredited degrees. And we don't think about those things. If you go to SAM here, you get an accredited degree. Your courses transfer anywhere. But non-accredited, those schools step back and say, "Oh, I won't touch that." They could if they want to, but they don't want to mess with anything. But then again, we like accredited things, right? We like it when there's something that stands behind things. We like to know our doctor was really trained as a doctor. He just didn't do a few weekend courses. You know, if you get a cardiologist, you don't want to say, I took a correspondence, a couple years back, and I did that, or locksmithing, but I wasn't sure which one I was going to be. So we like things that are certifiable, unless you're talking about me, because I'm just certifiable another way. But I'm guessing Josh has labored in love for quite some time, and we hope you enjoy the food. I know this is not a typical missions rally in some ways, but we are to make disciples. Yeah. And these are different ways that we can't do it. Yes, sir.
I have my wares too. So if anyone, I have brochures and I have pins and things, so if I can put those out somewhere, please take them.
And just think, if you If you live near Henderson, that's pretty easy to get to, but for us here, it's a lot closer probably just down to Springs. Brother Al's going to have a hard time getting people to commute to his school from here. If you don't mind, Brother Morris, would you mind closing the prayer and asking for a blessing upon the food?
Hi, Pastor Chris here from Chapelwood. And when we say that Chapelwood is a church of people just like you, you may wonder who's attending Chapelwood. Well, we have everything from school teachers to recovering drug addicts. We have grandparents and cattle ranchers, former professional disco dancers to IT personnel and a resident missionary. We have single moms and insurance agents. We have special needs students and office workers. We have lawn care specialists, real estate agents, and stay-at-home moms. We have people who are retired and people who work every day down the farm. We have people who work for Sam Houston as well as for TDCJ. We even have those who simply just volunteer and give their time to visitors at the state park. What you will find in Chapelwood is this: normal people who are imperfect people who have everyday life struggles just like you. And they're finding life's answers in the Bible, and you can too. So we invite you to join us at Chapelwood this Sunday, where we can love you just like Jesus loves us.